Welcome to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy. You know, I'm missing something in the MCU. This franchise keeps offering us so many cool things, pretty much on a monthly basis, so it's hard to miss anything at this point. Other than the X-Men, but that's not what I'm missing. At least not in this video.
And when are we getting the X-Men?
I cannot tell you that.
No, I'm missing something special that has been absent for way too long in the MCU. I keep waiting for that special something, but it never comes.
What are you missing? Tell us already.
What I'm missing is a team of supervillains. I am talking about the Masters of Evil, the Dark Avengers, the Thunderbolts, the Cabal. A team of bad guys, each with their own distinct personalities, motivations, powers, weapons, and skills. It's so strange that a villains team has never happened within this shared universe. I mean, seriously, even DC did it already, for like a minute.
Shouldn't we have a league of our own?
To make things worse, there doesn't even seem to be any plans for this in the future. So Kevin, if you're so busy with the multiverse stuff, let me pitch you why we need a supervillain team in this universe, how this team can happen, and who should be a part of it. I'm even going to figure out how you can do a heroes versus villains crossover before Secret Wars.
What if I told you we were putting a team together? Who's we?
Alright, so let's start with what we mean by a supervillain team. The Masters of Evil is one of the first groups of villains that ever assembled in the comics. They are sort of like the DC's Legion of Doom. It's a team of established villains who have all faced the Avengers individually in the past, so you could sort of see them as a dark mirror image of the Avengers. The original team was assembled by Baron Zemo, something I have no doubt could happen in the MCU. Now, over the years, there have been many iterations of the Masters of Evil. At some point, Zemo assembled a new team of villains, this time as the Thunderbolts, a team of baddies who pretended to be superheroes. And years later, a new version of the Thunderbolts was assembled by Norman Osborn, and they eventually became the Dark Avengers. Yet another team I want to see in the MCU. Finally, there's the Cabal, who are a dark version of the Illuminati. So you can see that potentially Marvel has a lot of great inspirations from the comics for a great villains team. I was really hoping that the Thunderbolts would be that type of team, but once Marvel announced the Thunderbolts roster, that excitement was just smashed. To clarify, I got no issues with this team. It looks like the movie will still be a lot of fun. Still, I can't help but be disappointed by the Thunderbolts not being a group of villains. We need at least one supervillain team.
It's not fair.
Hey, I'm gonna go get lunch real quick.
Cool, I'll cover everything here in the store. Man, he sure does love that new dog food of his. It's called Nom Nom, and it's the sponsor of this video.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Oh my god, that was fast.
Yeah, Nom Nom's really good. I ate it really fast.
It sure is. Nom Nom is healthy food made for your dog fresh. I mean, when I say fresh, I mean actually fresh. Look, you can actually see the vegetables that are in this. Peas, carrots, kale, and more.
And protein. Tell them about the protein.
It is filled with protein, vitamins, and nutrients, and it's delivered frozen straight to your front door. Nom Nom uses board-certified nutritionists to determine the best meal for your dog. Doug was recommended this one, the Chicken Cuisine, which has chicken, sweet potatoes, yellow squash, and spinach in it. Also, vitamin supplements.
So it doesn't just taste good, it's good for you.
That's right, buddy. See, we want to make sure that Doug is around for a long, long time. A better diet means softer coats, more energy, better breath, and better quality of life.
And also, smaller and more consistent stools.
Ah, you're worth it, buddy. High five. So, treat your dog to food that tastes good and is good for their health. To get 50% off your 2-week trial of Nom Nom, click the link down in the description below or go to trynom.com/ScreenCrush. Now back to what I was saying. The thing that makes a team like Masters of Evil special is that each villain is different and they're not just going to copy and paste goons. They are actual characters with individual personalities and traits. They all have individual and unique origin stories and they have their own motivations. They also all have their own looks, weapons, abilities, tech, and everything else. Each one has a personal history and connection with the individual heroes, and that is what makes this interesting. A team of villains who have serious grudges against the heroes, personal hatred that has been building for years, now finally coming to a boiling point.
I want to kill the spider. You want to kill the spider. Together, he doesn't stand a chance.
Interested?
And you know what's great about a villain team-up is that they won't get along all the time. That's another thing that we don't see in the MCU much, villains fighting other villains. The closest thing was Killmonger versus Claw. Now, they are bad guys, so naturally there will be twists and turns, and they will constantly try to one-up each other. And they all have hidden motives and secret plans. Just think of all the banter between all these types of villains, like Justin Hammer trying to flex about his discount Iron Man suits, and everyone else crapping on him. Or all the bad guys arguing about who's better, and then Zemo just makes that head tilt of his, and everyone just shuts up, because he actually beat the Avengers with no powers. On top of that, think about the battles. And this won't be another big battle of Avengers fighting lookalike goons. No, this heroes versus villains battle is something completely new. Imagine the airport battle, but heroes versus villains on a much larger scale.
Make it happen.
Meanwhile,
Holy cow,
what are you showing me? His head. Come on! Open your eyes!
Truth be told, the MCU's villains are becoming a little stagnant and repetitive at this point. Almost every movie or show follows a similar pattern with the villains. There's one main villain who either works alone or they have a bunch of useless goons, and usually it's an army of lookalike CGI goons. These types of villains are the most common in the MCU. Now don't get me wrong, this method works for the most part, but isn't it time to shake things up with something new? Anyway, then there are the villains who got henchmen like Thanos and the Black Order. Now I don't consider them as teams since the henchmen are basically subservient carbon copies of their leader.
Goons and henchmen are two completely different animals. The henchmen believe in the cause, whereas goons are just there for the paycheck.
And sometimes the main villain actually is a henchman for another villain who just has a cameo in the movie. And I don't consider team-ups like Ultron working with Wanda and Pietro since those are too far in between, and none of these can actually be considered teams. The closest we ever came to a proper supervillain team is the Sinister Six in No Way Home. Well, the Sinister Five. Now all of this goes to show that the MCU supervillain department needs a shakeup, and a supervillain team is exactly what we need. Unfortunately, there's one caveat here, and it's the current state of bad guys in the MCU. Marvel's developed this nasty trend of redeeming and killing all their new villains. Wenwu, Icarus, Gore, and a few others got redemption moments from their deaths. The ones who were still alive, Wanda, Agatha, Taskmaster, also got redemption at the end, and now they're sort of anti-heroes. And then there are the villains who didn't get redemption, but they died anyways. So this doesn't leave much for us in the supervillain department.
This town deserves a better class of criminal.
The only question here is how Marvel could even fit a supervillain team into their extremely busy slate. We know about most projects that are planned for Phase 5, but right now the only movies that were announced for Phase 6 are 2 Avengers movies, The Fantastic Four, and Deadpool. And Secret Wars was just delayed to 2026, so that gives Marvel some breathing room for a superheroes versus supervillains movie.
See? Problem solved. Oh.
So this will be more like Captain America Civil War, which was an Avengers movie in all but name. My guess is that this crossover could be Black Panther 3. I'm envisioning the Masters of Evil being comprised of mostly human villains with powers and tech, meaning real-world types of threats and less of the cosmic or multiversal variety. And the same goes for the heroes that will unite against the villains: Captain America, Spider-Man, Black Panther, Hawkeye, War Machine, Hulk, Bucky, and Yelena, and a few others. This crossover should be a lot like Civil War with its story and tone. It's not about the multiverse, it's about conflicts on Earth that reach boiling points. Civil War established that some people on Earth aren't too happy with the Avengers, and since then, things have escalated quite a bit. The world's governments seem to be actively working against heroes now, with them trying to create their own heroes and the DoDC becoming a hostile police force against enhanced individuals. The world just turned on Spider-Man because they thought he killed Mysterio. Wanda just went on a rampage, twice. Wakanda Forever is hinting at a conflict between the advanced nation and the UN. And considering its title, Captain America 4 will deal with similar real-world themes.
They need you right now. When they don't, they'll cast you out.
And things are about to escalate to epic proportions after Secret Invasion. People will go paranoia mode once they find out that the Skrulls replaced important people in key roles in the government. That's something the Masters of Evil can use. Turn the public against heroes using the Skrulls as fear propaganda. Convince the public that superheroes were compromised, that some of them might have already been replaced by the Skrulls.
Somebody in this camp ain't what he appears to be. Right now, that may be 1 or 2 of us. By spring, it could be all of us.
So how do we know who's human?
Paranoia will create distrust and delusion against the heroes. In fact, the Masters of Evil might even pretend to be the new heroes who've arrived to save the world from this Skrull menace. And this is how the Dark Avengers came to power in the comics. The 2 Avengers movies will be a culmination for the multiverse stuff, but there's a serious escalation for the conflicts on Earth. All of these stories need to be tied into one arc, starting with Wakanda Forever and reaching its climax in Phase 6, which will be a heroes versus villains movie. So this brings us to which villains should join the Masters of Evil.
So say goodnight to the bad guy.
The leader is coming back in Captain America New World Order, and he might even be this team's leader. You know, he's the leader.
Take me to your leader. Oh, wait, I am your leader.
The leader is Hulk's arch nemesis from the comics, so this rivalry can finally unfold in the MCU with the Masters of Evil. Now it's important that each member of the villains team will have a personal history with one of the heroes. Sam already has his own arch nemesis, and that of course is Zemo. Zemo isn't your typical villain, he doesn't operate like the rest of them, and deep down his motivations are pure, just in a really messed up way.
The danger with people like him is that we put them on pedestals. They become symbols, icons, and then we start to forget about their flaws.
So he's not the type of guy to team up with other baddies. In fact, he's the kind of guy that will try to stop any team of superhumans. But let's not forget, Zemo's not an anti-hero. He killed a lot of people just to prove a point. He's also not above using others to do his dirty work. He's a bona fide killer who justifies his crimes with his ideology, and that is why he's such a great villain. Sure, the leader could be the team's leader, but Zemo will be the one who's pulling the strings from the shadows. Remember, Zemo's whole thing is that he doesn't like superheroes who don't hold themselves accountable, and let's be honest, most heroes don't.
We tampered with the stability of space-time to resurrect countless lives. Do you want to do it again now just because yours got messy?
5 minutes later.
The entire world's about to forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
1 hour later.
We're all gonna die! Especially now that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed. The irresponsibility of heroes in Phase 4 will be the reason why Zemo decides to assemble his own team of villains. Zemo is a technical genius who knows exactly what makes people tick. So he will find what each villain wants and use it to get them all to work together to bring down the Avengers. Since Zemo believes that what he's doing is necessary to protect the world from the very people who protect the world, he will have plans to bring down the other villains after they've done his dirty work. Zemo might even get government support to achieve his goals. It was just announced that Harrison Ford is the new Thunderbolt Ross, sadly replacing William Hurt, who passed away earlier this year. Ross is another guy who's got major grievances with superheroes,
who routinely ignore sovereign borders and inflict their will wherever they choose, and who seem unconcerned about what they leave behind.
He was an avid supporter of the Sokovia Accords, but now that they are done, that might throw him over the edge completely. Ross can use his influence in the government to help Zemo form the villains team. Now this will be like in the comics, where Norman Osborn used his position as S.H.I.E.L.D.'s director to create the Thunderbolts and the Dark Avengers. But Ross's role in the team will be an active one, because he needs to become the Red Hulk.
You can either surrender peacefully, or you can resist. Please resist.
The only thing better than grumpy Harrison Ford is a big grumpy CGI Harrison Ford.
Get off my plane.
Actually, Ross might become Red Hulk thanks to the leader in New World Order. They're both in the movie, and She-Hulk established that just a few drops of Hulk's blood can pretty much create whole new Hulks.
It's way too dangerous to get out in the world, even if there's only 1,000,000% chance that it makes another one of us.
And then next we have Namor. He's going to be the main villain in Wakanda Forever. Namor is a ruthless anti-hero. Sometimes he's a good guy, and sometimes he's a full-blown villain. Based on the trailers, he's going to flood Wakanda and kill a lot of people just to get what he wants. So Namor is going to be a very ambiguous character in the coming years.
But my enemies call me Namor.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is set to introduce MODOK into the MCU, so that's another villain that can join the team.
That is a very big head.
I am MODOK. I am the ultimate inhuman-machine interface. I am designed only for conquest.
Also, guys, we shouldn't sleep on Red Skull. Captain America: New World Order might be a hint to Red Skull's return. In the comics, Red Skull founded a sinister organization called the New World Order. And with Marvel bringing villains back from the early phases, it just makes sense that we'd see that Hydra bastard again. Though I doubt that Zemo would work with the guy who created Hydra, but you never know how things are going to play out.
Hydra deserves its place on the ash heap. So your death would not bother me. But I'd have to use this book and other bloodier methods to find what I need.
Speaking of Phase 1 villains, Obadiah Stane, the very first MCU villain, might make his return, but not in the way you think. I don't want him coming back to life, but in the comics he has a son, Ezekiel, who becomes an Iron Man villain. Now, there's no indication that Ezekiel even exists in the MCU, but if he does, then Armor Wars or Ironheart are the projects that can introduce him. Actually, Ironheart makes the most sense. Riri Williams is becoming Ironheart, so she's basically the new Iron Man, carrying Tony's legacy to a new generation. Ezekiel can be a dark parallel of that, with him carrying on his father's legacy. Now, this fits with the legacy stuff that we are seeing in Phase 4, with many heroes becoming parents or parent-like figures, passing the torch to a new generation of heroes. There's something very interesting about a kid who grew up in this world, having to live with his father's actions and watching the man who killed his father become the greatest hero in the universe. That must do something to a person, like lead him to a dark path of becoming a supervillain.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
And now all that venom is directed at the new Iron Man and his best friend. I mean, this sort of writes itself. Speaking of Venom, there's a symbiote in the MCU, meaning that there will be a Venom. So the MCU's version of Venom could totally join the team as Spider-Man's nemesis.
You know, take a picture, slice his throat, put his head in a dryer.
Also, speaking of old Iron Man villains, gotta bring back Justin Hammer. Yes, he was a discount Tony Stark, but he was a fun discount Tony Stark, and Sam Rockwell is so freaking good.
It's capable of busting the bunker under the bunker you just busted. If it were any smarter, it'd write a book that would make Ulysses look like it was written in crayon.
Also, hear me out. Carl Mordo. We saw a Mordo from another universe, but I want to see what this Mordo was up to. 2016's Doctor Strange established him as a really interesting villain, and they haven't done anything with him since. Considering that Doctor Strange is going to be pretty busy with the multiverse in the coming years, I don't see him fighting Mordo anytime soon. So, Mordo joining the Masters of Evil is probably the best way we can see him again. Then there's Kingpin. Yes, I know that'll be cool, but I don't actually want to see Wilson Fisk join this team. I just wanted to mention him in case someone shouts me out in the comments about this. Kingpin is a street-level villain, so he should stay clear of Avengers-level conflicts. I would love to see him go against a street-level team, though. The final member of the team needs to be Dr. Doom. Now, as I mentioned in many videos, Dr. Doom is my favorite villain. If Doom joins the team, he is going to be the wild card, even more so than Zemo and Namor. Doom believes that the world will be a better place under his rule, his and his alone. So he will work with other bad guys only to use them to achieve his own goals.
That would be beneath me. Such chores are what people like you are for.
The way I see it is Doom keeping a low profile, letting the other villains believe that he's a team player, just using them to do the dirty work for him. And Dr. Doom could be the one who ties this conflict with the larger multiverse conflict. Doom needs to play a major role in the multiverse saga, so he might already be working on a plan to survive the impending doom of the multiverse, and the Masters of Evil are just a cog in his grand master plan, a way to keep the heroes busy while he finds ways to outsmart Kang and become God Emperor Doom, something that happened in the comics version of Secret Wars, and something that should happen in the MCU Secret War as well. Anyways, these are all the bad guys that I think could be part of this supervillain team. This could be the Masters of Evil or the Dark Avengers, or call them whatever you want. Just make it happen, Marvel.
Do it.
But now it's your turn. Tell me your 7 villains that should be in the MCU supervillain team down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.